The video game adaptations of Harry Potter haven't been good to the wizarding world. After a string of botched attempts at capturing the magic of the blockbuster series, EA tosses some new ingredients into the cauldron to conjure up a different type of Potter game. Deathly Hallows Part 1 abandons the sandbox of Hogwarts for a more linear and scripted experience, with a heavy emphasis on cover-based projectile combat. Is this the recipe for success, or does it backfire with dire consequences?
If you're so unhappy, go home to Mummy. Just leave the Horcrux.
Tonight, I will kill Harry Potter.
In the final chapter of the Harry Potter saga, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are on the run from Voldemort and his Death Eaters as the wizarding world is overrun by the Dark Lord. Hunted at every turn, their only hope is to continue Dumbledore's quest to destroy the remaining Horcruxes. The journey pushes their friendship and willpower to the limits as they continuously defy capture and certain death.
Ron saved my life, and we used the sword to destroy the Horcrux.
It's a dark tale that is most fulfilling for anyone who's kept up with the story so far, but the game makes a few noticeable adjustments and omissions to fit it all in. The plot is also hurried along quite frequently to keep up with the game's pacing, and the cutscene sequences are too short to do the story any real justice. But it still holds enough weight that you'll want to see it through to the end.
Harry, we have to get her out of here!
Deathly Hallows sees Harry and friends hit the road in a level-based shooter that's far more linear than the previous Potter games. There are times where you can pick your own way in terms of level progression, but it's little more than a facade. The order in which you tackle missions has no impact on the outcome of the story, nor can you advance without clearing all the levels available to you. This time, the Potter experience is more focused overall, driven by scripted events and context-sensitive sequences. It makes for a much faster-paced game, but there are still enough breaks in the action to catch your breath or explore. Most of the levels involve surviving shootouts with Death Eaters and other villains, and as a result, it's easy to compare Deathly Hallows to other cover-based shooters. It's when the game deviates from this blueprint that it delivers its best moments, like the levels that focus on stealth, requiring Harry to utilize his invisibility cloak to remain hidden from enemies. This focused approach does come at the cost of exploration. While you can scour every nook and cranny for a few hidden collectibles, and there are some open environments that give you a bit more space, the game keeps pushing you to move onward rather than linger behind. If you're looking for more substance after completing the 6-hour story, there's always the challenge mode to test your spellcasting mastery. And if you have access to the Kinect hardware, additional on-rails style levels are opened up, though they're fairly weak compared to the main course. It might not necessarily be a change for the better, but it's a direction that certainly suits the franchise well. Deathly Hallows is a bit on the short side and offers slightly less than other Potter games, but it manages to hold its own.
Stupefy!
Spellcasting in the Harry Potter series has always been about finesse and execution, but Deathly Hallows' shooter mentality trivializes the process. With no ammo restrictions and what's essentially a shooter, you're free to fire at will without the normal repercussions or considerations. You'll unlock new spells as you level up in battle, each of which is effective in its own ways, but mandatory obstacles aside, there's not enough incentive to switch them up. You'll also have to interrupt the action to change spells, and the quick toggle is a poor substitute for mapping key spells to your D-pad. As a result, you're likely to lean more heavily on one or two spells to get the job done. In many instances, Ron and Hermione will accompany you into combat. You have no control over your partner's actions, which wouldn't be an issue if not for their bad AI. They're generally ineffective and stay out of the way, but there are a few rare instances where they'll actually trip up your progress. Some odd bugs and hit detection issues combined with objectives that are sometimes confusing make things that much more difficult. More often than not, it's simply more effective to move around in the open during a firefight than it is to take cover, which is a significant oversight. It's also not always apparent what can serve as cover, nor how much protection a specific spot will afford you. Frankly, it's ultimately a moot point given the weak enemy AI that rarely puts up a fight. The Kinect option doesn't fare any better, offering nothing less than gimmicky wrist flicking that you'll tire of in no time.
Stupefy!
Harry, are you alright?
The visuals in Deathly Hallows sway back and forth, at times providing some amazing scenic vistas while miring you in downright ugly environments in others. As a general rule, the more claustrophobic the setting, the less impressive it is. The majority of the game looks good though, the occasional visual bug aside. While a few of the film's minor actors lend their voice talents to the game, the stand-ins for some of the leads fall short.
You
Ow!
complete
Whoa!
idiot!
Hey!
The soundtrack is sweeping when it hits its stride, but it too often remains muted, relegated to little more than background ambiance.
You took a locket from here. Where is it?
Deathly Hallows represents a drastic shift in direction for the series. The game definitely captures the frantic vibe of the later Potter stories, but there's still enough miscues to hold it back from doing the source material justice. Given that the film it's based on is a two-parter, EA has at least one more chance to deliver a truly great Potter game.
Are you mental?
Bring gun!